America in 1977.
Okay.
And with second paycheck, my mom bought the TV, and I started watching. And that's how basically I didn't speak any English, so I started watching the shows. It was Welcome Back, Card. After later, it was Mork and Mindy, Nanu Nanu. Just loved that.
So you learned English from John Travolta and Robin Williams.
Robin Williams, yeah, but mostly from John Travolta. It's like, you talking to me? You talking to me? What? Where? I didn't do it. And then, so yeah, it was pretty cool. So, and then I went into, although I finished the high school in Russia, but I never had any papers because they kind of threw us out because we were traitors to the Communist Party. And
Wow.
So I had to go to 1 year in Cleveland to high school to get a diploma. So I was going there in the morning to high school, and then at night I used to go and work whatever jobs I can get to help out the family. So that was my indoctrination in learning English.
No kid in Cleveland? That's where you must have got your accent then, huh?
That's right. That's why I speak with Cleveland accent. That's where I met Diana. We got married, and then we moved to California. So, yeah. I mean, my brother, my mother, a whole bunch of my cousins, they still live in Cleveland. Actually going there to visit my mom. But yeah, this is how I learned. Mainly the biggest teacher of English for me was TV and those sitcoms. It was very interesting. And then, of course, I like watching movies, and So I remember we've talked yesterday, and let's say, what is your top, let's say, action movie?
Oh,
I kind of know.
Yeah, easy, without a doubt, Die Hard.
Die Hard, and that's for your Christmas time or Thanksgiving time.
Well, now that's different debate. Okay, so Die Hard's my favorite movie, but it's not my favorite Christmas movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, for me, it's Top Gun. I probably watched it over 50 times.
Top Gun.
Yeah.
Top Gun. What year? Maybe the chat can chime in on some of these.
I don't remember the year.
I want to say 86 or 7.
7, yeah. I already was in California for sure.
Okay.
And then as far as the comedies, there's so many, but the one that really sticks out to me is Young Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein.
With Gene Wilder. I just love it. Because they have that character, Igor.
Igor. Yeah.
And
Igor.
And he goes, well, your hump was on the other side. He goes, oh, okay. He shifts it and he just goes to the other side.
What hump?
Yeah, what hump?
So this is fun. This is a fun fact, Jan. I toured with an original band for a bunch of years back in the Midwest, and the name of the band was Abby Someone, which is a line from that movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. The other one that I really like is Pulp Fiction. I think it's such a interesting twist to it, and such a good characters in there.
Yeah. So what about the most recent Tarantino movie, the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Have you seen that?
Yes, I have, and actually it was well done. Well, very well done. I kind of liked it a lot. But out of his movies, it's Reservoir Dogs for me. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, because there's such a clever dialogues going on in there, and I really like that.
So I really like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. In fact, I've seen it, I think, 7 times now.
Wow.
And it's probably my second favorite movie now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and when we go to foreign comedies, it's Meaning of Life, all of that stuff. I kind of like that.
Yeah, that sounds. I would have guessed that about you. You probably like Monty Python. That fits your sense of humor.
Yeah, I love Monty Python. A little dry and a little quirky.
Yeah.
I love it. One of these days, I'll become probably a movie critic in my dreams.
We should do a Zoom watch party or something. I bet you'd be a lot of fun to watch a movie with.
Oh, sometimes I scream at TVs when I watch it.
Well, hey, Jan, that brings us to the top of the hour. It looks
Oh, yeah.
like. Why don't we go ahead and kick this thing off? Hey, everybody, welcome to SolidWorks Live Design, and my name is Brad Williamson. I'm one of the industry process consultants here at Dassault Systems, and I'll be your host today for an episode with my friend and my colleague Jan Keeley. And Jan is. Let me just tell you about Jan. He's probably one of the funniest people that I work with. I really enjoy having gotten to know him the last few years, and we work on a lot of projects together. But with when it comes to Jan, anything can happen and probably will, as they say in the biz. So Jan today is going to be doing an episode called Hammer Time. I don't know what's going to happen. Probably a lot of MC Hammer jokes. So you're encouraged in the chat. You know, if you're joining in the chat, make sure to give all your best MC Hammer jokes and 80s references, because I'm sure he will love that. That's going to be great. MC Hammer, gee whiz. It's too bad that I think I just dropped off my parachute pants at the Goodwill like last week. I should have hung on to those. So, oh, incidentally, everybody, hey, I see folks are joining in the chat. Just for fun, Hammer Time, MC Hammer, little 80s trivia here. Who can tell us and no Googling, Mike Puckett, who can tell us what the famous bass line, the song, and maybe the song and the artist that MC Hammer, Hammer Time riff was lifted from? Does anybody know? Go ahead and put that in the chat if you know.
I don't.
Okay, well, we'll have to see what happens. But Jan, your episode is called Hammer Time. Tell me a little bit about what you're going to be doing today.
What I'll be doing is I will be using DraftSight, which is our package that we offer for 2D drafting. It got a little bit 3D, a little bit mechanical, but it's really it's 2D drafting. And surprisingly enough, we actually went and asked all of our SolidWorks users, and about 80% of them, somewhere in their company, somebody's using DWG type format files. Yeah. And it's still used a lot in AEC, which stands for Architecture, Equipment, and Construction. But it can be also used for mechanical. I'm a product of drafting, okay? I don't know if you can see it. This is my high school drafting book that I have, okay? And I'm not going to tell you what year it's from, but this is what I don't know if you can see it well. This is what I learned. So it's really front view, top view, side view for me. This is how I think in my head. So it's much easier for me to do that. And for certain things, you can just get away with 2D drafting because it's a simple stuff. You don't need very complex stuff. So what I'll do is actually I'll use some real life example of the hammer. And the reason I'm going to do the hammer because my grandson comes all the time. Every week he stays with us a couple of days. And he likes to do things. His favorite thing is to cut something, to drill something, then to hammer something. So what happens is, let me start my presentation real quick and you'll understand what's happening. So in here, oh yeah, please, no more MC Hammer jokes.
Oh, okay? Come on.
Well, come on. Here's your pens.
Yep.
Here's Brad donated this pen. So no more MC Hammer time, okay? So now, the reason it happened is, did it ever happen to you? What I did, I used the hammer, and instead of hammering without my grandson, I tried to use it as a crowbar. It doesn't work very well. So it snaps. So I went and bought another one. Okay, I bought this one. Okay? Then guess what I did next week? And again, I broke it again. And I said, well, I don't want to spend another $20. I want to build a handle. But what happens is this short, I Slamal up it.
Slamal, what is this? Yeah. There's a Laverne and Shirley reference here?
No, it's not. It's actually Russian. But I'm promised that anybody who speaks Russian, they know that I'm not using really bad profanity word. Basically said, darn it, I broke it again.
So this is Russian for darn it.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
What's the chert?
Chort, it's darn.
Darn.
Chort, slamal, broke it.
I broke it.
Slamal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How about that?
So So without any further ado, what we'll do is so I showed you already this hammer. Okay. So what I decided to do, I used my trusted calipers and my scale, and I started measuring. I said, next time I'm just going to build one instead of buying it because, the hammer piece is still fine. So what we'll do is we'll switch over. This is, okay, I'm going to spend a little time because most of our users are Solidworks users. So they probably never seen Solidworks. But I don't know, if you ever used AutoCAD, 90% of DraftSight. As a matter of fact, it even speaks AutoCAD. So here's the.
So this is 2D. This is like pretty much the common look and layout of a lot of 2D programs. Then that
yes,
DraftSight borrows from.
So you can actually. Yeah, I created my own that I like to use. You can save it. You can go into Classic, which if you ever used AutoCAD, this is pretty much how the AutoCAD would look like. Okay, So if you come more comfortable with that, you can go in here and then you can select different things and use them, and if that's what you want.
It's like the old school icons, the command lines down there. I mean, this is. Hey, just incidentally, everybody that's joining in on the chat, be curious to know how many of you came from a 2D background. Maybe that's what you learned design on. That'd be interesting to know. Chime in if that's you. I would also be interested to know if there's 2D still being used at the companies you work at. I would be pretty surprised to know if there's not 2D somewhere, because DWG is still pretty much the language of a lot of engineering and design, isn't it, Jan?
Absolutely. I still, when I need to go in Home Depot and buy something to fix in the house, guess what I do? I do a quick sketch and measure in 2D, and I go into Home Depot to buy stuff.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense because your background is like electronics and PCB, right?
Right. I'm a PCB designer, really. So although we had to deal with the chassis and panels, but they were all done in 2D at that time, a long time ago. So
started in 2D. Yep.
So what I'll do is, like I said, this is kind of interface you want. You can do that. I prefer our classic interface from DraftSight. And again, if you want to do lines, you can do lines. You can do different things. You can switch over to different annotations, manage. Well, let's talk about manage right now. You, as SolidWorks users, probably use mouse gestures. And DraftSight also has mouse gestures. So if I click on my right mouse button, notice that, I have, this is power trim, this is layers, which is used a lot. This is window, but this one,
So that's just dragging with the right mouse button, just like in SolidWorks 3D?
Just like in SolidWorks, yes, exactly. So it's very easy. So I'm going to actually add one more in here, and I'm going to go into mouse gestures. If I click on this is already all of the buttons and the quadrants that it programmed and what kind of commands I'm going to use. Power trim is used a lot.
Yes. Is that like SolidWorks Power Trim?
You'll see. I'm actually going to show. Yes, it is, and it's actually the other software that starts with A and ends with D does not have power trim, does not have mouse gestures. So we're trying to make it easy for SolidWorks users to be able to use it, and it's fairly simple.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So now I'm going to spline. I want to use a spline. So I find the spline, and here I'm going to assign to the top quadrant and say, okay. And now if I go in here, here's my spline. So now the reason I brought up also the layers are used a lot in DraftSight. Yeah. And basically, you put lines on certain lines, you put holes, you put dimensions, you segregate everything by layers, and you can display them on and off. So you use layers a lot. Now, I like to be more efficient. I don't like to go on top of the screen, so I can actually type in, like in the other software, if I know the commands, type layers. Notice in the lower left corner, it starts lay, and it goes layers. I can click on layers, okay? and it will bring this one up. Except I don't even want to look down in the lower corner of my screen. I'm going to activate this one, and now wherever I am, I'm going to type in, and that pops right where I am, so I don't even have to look down.
Nice.
But I don't even like to type. So there's a lot of keyboard shortcuts that a lot of users that used that software before, like I know layers. Let's say purge, although in DraftSight it's called clean, but I can type purge and it'll do the same thing. What it does is basically remove like line times or some blocks that I've used from the drawing that I deleted, but it kind of sits in the database, so reduces the size. So
okay,
all of
so what you're saying is DraftSight has its name for the command, but it also has the other command that you might know if you came from the other software.
Exactly, and that's what.
Okay.
So it's very easy to pick it up. Okay. So let's not talk about. Okay, so just one more thing. So as I said, layers. So if you want to draw lines like on this white layer, which is my handle layer, or construction lines on the red layer, you have to go and manual switch layers all the time here. Well, DraftSight did something else. We have TB layers. And in here, I can actually say, you know what? If I'm going to do dimensions, no matter what layer is active, so just one more thing, put it on dimensions. So if it knows that I'm going to draw dimensions, it automatically puts on that layer. So you can set this up based on your standard and actually save that as a template. So whenever we start a new drawing, everything is already configured. So very little setup time needs to happen.
That's pretty cool. So I didn't know it could do that.
Yeah.
What is that called again? Did you say TB layers?
It's called TB layers. It comes from the
TB layers.
From the toolbox, and it's from Mechanical Toolbox. But you have that shortcut in here that you can just click on it, goes in settings, and then configure whatever entities on what layer you want to set automatically go to. So it's pretty cool. So
that is great.
Yeah. So let's now. So I took my hammer. I did very careful measurements. I drew that handle from the side view, and I set it as a block. So I'm going to insert the block. Now, where is the insert block in here? I have no idea. Now, DraftSight is the product that I support. Why do I don't care, because I'm going to just say insert. And there it is. I don't even have to look. I'm going to insert the block. That's as simple as that. I could have even programmed that into my mouse gesture if you use it a lot, but I don't. But I'm going to have hammer side view. I'm going to say OK. And notice as I move, it snaps because I activated my eSnap. So it can snap to different entities. So here it is. And now I inserted it. I don't want to insert again, but now I'm going to do the zoom area. I'm going to zoom in. So I put it like a little block. So I'm going to delete this block. And I'm going to delete that. So this is the handle from this hammer that looks like this that I did. And here's the dimensions that I put in. Great. And now it's time to do the front view. Okay, which is a little more complex and got a little bit curves, as the other side also did. So I'm going to do that. Now I have to sit and measure. So you're going to have to bear with me. I'm going to sit and measure and draw all of this. Okay, so it's going to take a long time.
Well, while you're thinking about that, let me check in the chat here and just see if we've got any folks. Mike, Mike started in AutoCAD 14. Check that out. So that's going back to the probably early 90s, mid 90s, maybe?
I don't want to date myself, but the first AutoCAD I used was 1.1 on 8.5-inch dual-sided dual-density floppies. Okay. So, and
you dated yourself.
Yes, I did.
Oh, question here. Hey, Tomas is asking, what is the name of the book that you held up? Your mechanical drawing book?
Cherchenia, which is drafting in Russian.
Cherchenia, wow.
Cherchenia,
okay.
Yes. Yeah. So it's in the 8th grade of high school. So
you're going to go ahead and measure this handle.
Yep.
Why don't you just take a picture? I mean, I saw a live design where Mark Peterson took a picture of the thing and then just traced around it.
Oh, it's a great idea. And Mark Peterson, I mean, I don't know, why didn't I think of it? So, okay, magic, forward 5 minutes. I did the pictures and brought the pictures in. So we're going to go into the layers, and I'm going to activate my pictures. So guess what happened? This is the hammer. This is this scale. I took the picture and I put it in. And I'm going to trace it instead of trying to very careful draw it with the dimensions. Again, I'm going to turn the ortho is off. I'm going to take my spline, and I'm going to start with the spline. Okay? Very slowly, I'm going to do the spline. And again, I might modify it a little bit to make it a little better. And, it doesn't have to be exactly the same, right? We can improve it as we go along. And again, we say, okay, and enter. So here's the spline. Okay, it's really is a spline. So let me see if I can modify it just a little bit. Let me move this to this side. Okay, let's move this here. Oops, sorry. About right there. Okay, kind of looks good. Maybe a little bit more here. So you can play around. And I said, I kind of like this. Then I'm going to do a line. And then the line going to start from, again, because it snaps, the e-snap is on, it snaps to the actual construction lines. And I'm going to add one here and one more in there. Okay? And now I have to draw the other side. Wow, all right. I'm lazy. I don't like to draw everything from scratch. So how about we'll just select all of that, and I'm going to type mirror for mirror. Okay, now I'm going to activate my ortho, and I'm going to start from this point to this point, and basically that's the handle.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very simple. And again, and then I was talking yesterday to Brad prepping for this, and Brad goes, Jan, why do you need to complicate your life? Why not just to make it isosymmetric and without this, just turn it on the table? I said, okay, well, let's not even worry about that. Let's just concentrate on this part.
Well, so yeah, doesn't that make sense? I mean, then you could, for me, I always look for an excuse to go buy a new tool. And if I were going to, rather than buy a new hammer, if I were going to make a new handle, that's an excuse to go buy like one of those little shop lathes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I already talked to my CFO, Chief Financial Officer, meaning Diana, and I put my purchase request. I'm waiting for the approval for that and for the purchase of that and some cut and some tools. Okay, but as we go along now, it looks good, right? So maybe we don't need to see any more construction lines. I'm just going to turn them off too. Basically, I'm just going to say, just freeze it for right now. I didn't lock it.
Okay, so free. What do you mean by that term freeze? Is that like
freeze.
Hide?
Yeah, it's hiding it. It's still there. I can always bring it back on. Okay. So here's the handle. And again, as we're talking, I mean, I wish I can take credit for everything, but Brad actually said, Jan, why don't you have some grooves in there so it doesn't slip from your hand? So we're going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to do this, and then we'll use a power trim tool for it. Okay, so I'm going to do a very simple line. I'm just going to start from here to here. Okay, and how about if we offset this line, and you can specify 0.13, which is the standard tool, and there it is. So I created this, right? Then the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to select this, and I'm going to use array, or in our speak, in DraftSight, it's called patterns. But you can type array, and it's the same thing.
Yeah, so I'm going to Solidworks speak also.
Yep,
pattern.
Yeah, exactly. So pattern, array, same thing. So I'm going to say I'm going to make 11. I'm going to do only 1, and I'm going to go minus 0.8. Okay? If I'm satisfied, I'm going to say, okay. Well, there it is.
That's pretty slick.
And I did this pattern associative. The difference is associated means it's kind of a block and I can modify it. Now, let me show you what it means. And later I'll explode it. So if I select this, you see these handles right here. I can move them around dynamically, very quickly, and readjust it. Let's say I'm going to do it like this. This is the one I like. Okay?
So associative is like parametric.
Yes. So you can actually enter, in here you can enter all the parametric data that you want, and you can dynamically adjust it using those handles when I'm modifying it. Okay? Now, to trim it, because it's kind of a block, I need to explode it. Very simply, I'm going to select the explode, or I could have typed explode in my command box, and now they're all individual pieces again. Okay? Now I need to do the trim. Of course, the trims are here. There is normal trim, there is power trim, there is end trim, fill. There's a lot of commands. But all I'm going to do is the trim. So I'm going to go into my mouse gesture, and this is where I program my trim. And all I have to do is just hold my mouse down. I forgot to explode it. Explode. I thought I did. Explode. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If it's exploded. Yep, it is.
Looks like it.
Okay.
So when you explode it, it makes it just like regular entities then. Mm-hmm. They're not linked together.
And now I'm using the power trim. I just go done. And oops.
That's just like SolidWorks 3D.
Exactly. So again, there's so much, we build so much similarities for the users, so you can be comfortable. Again, if you're doing something simple, for me, it's easier to do it in this format, okay, instead of going and build a 3D model. Nothing wrong with that, but I can just do this real quickly in here. And if, let's say, I'm doing a gasket, something simple, I can quickly do it in DraftSight and then send it to Omax WaterJet and have it cut out for me at no time at all, okay?
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, there's still, I don't think 2D necessarily means, old technology. It just means that for a lot of disciplines, it's really just kind of the best tool for the job. Like you said, coming out of an electronics background, it was just right. It was just the better truth, or the better tool.
Yep. So now one more thing I'm going to do. I'm going to quickly do some couple dimensions and see how easy it is. It's really that easy. So I'm going to activate again. I'm going to do ortho. You can go dimensions. You can go an actual dimension. There is much more than that. I'm just going to go very simple linear dimensions. I want to know how big this is. And here's the dimension. Now I'm going to go from here, just hit again here, from here to here. Here's another dimension. Maybe this one. From here to here. That's fine. I should have moved it. Control Z.
Control Z, undo.
Yep. Same. Everything. Basically, if you know Windows, it's the same thing. Now I'm just going to do this from here to here, and from there to there. Simple stuff, and maybe couple more.
Yeah. What's overall length, I guess, is from the other view.
Yep. We just gonna I accidentally escaped from the command, so I'm gonna go from this point to this point, and then
there you go.
From this point to this point, and it's right there.
Fully defined every time. Well, over-defined now, but okay.
Yeah, but let me just delete this. We don't need this. So now you're going to say, why would you dimension this inside the handle? I mean, this is not the norm, right? Brett, I mean, if I really do this and give this drawing into the shop folder, they're going to come scream at me and say, you don't put dimensions inside. There's actually a madness to this, why I did it this way, okay?
Yeah.
If you bear with me, I want to show you why I did it this way. Well, I'm planning to buy this wood turning table, and it's got the tool rest. And maybe I can print this one-to-one and overlay the tool, and I don't have to even measure it and cut this. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, okay, how about we print this? And not only that we're going to print it, we're going to switch over to legal size. We're going to rotate 90 degrees. And instead of feet to page, I'm going to print 1-to-1. And then I'm going to say I want to center of the page, okay? And just print this. Now, the reason I put all the dimension inside, so it uses a smaller piece of my paper so I can overlay on my tool rest and use that as my guide, basically.
That
so if I
makes
say,
a ton of
okay,
sense.
yeah, if I'm going to say, okay, let's print it, it's actually going to go print it and put it, because my default printer is my Snagit, and this is what it's going to do. So I can use that, print it out, and overlay on my, and use that basically as a template, as a cutting tool. So I have to do very little measurement as I'm building this part.
Okay? Yeah, it's just a pattern. That's awesome. I remember doing SolidWorks demos years ago. People asked for this kind of thing where, can I just print full scale and to get a scale reference or to do as a pattern, something like that. I forget what, Toby. Hey, Toby Schnars. Yeah, fully defined. That's my man. He probably remembers what version of SolidWorks that full scale printing came out. But now I remember back in the old days too, Jan, printing used to be kind of tricky to do out of 2D. You had to have special drivers and stuff. And now you can it's just built into Windows, right?
Yep. Whatever your default printer, or if you have multiple configures, say do it to it. I did it electronically, but of course I'm going to print it at the end. And basically that's it. That is how simple it is. So instead of spending $20 every time I break the handle, I submitted a $500 purchase order to Diana Keeley for the approval of the bench rest, and hoping to buy that with some tools and put it in the garage and build it. Now,
well, I hope you get your lathe, but I got to wonder what kind of vitamins you're taking that you're breaking hammers all the time, because that sounds a little dicey to me.
Because I have a crowbar and walk over there and grab it, but I'll just try it with the hammer. But okay, and my grandson, when he comes over, this is his favorite. I have my own bigger hammer, but this is his hammer that he used to hammer stuff with. So I got to have a backup for sure.
Now, what's your grandson's name?
Jalen.
Okay, you got to back off the spinach on Jalen, because if he's breaking the hammers, look out.
No. Yeah, if that's we're all in trouble. Anyway, so here's the stuff that I did. But, as we were talking yesterday, Brad, you said that you do have a printer, right? Like 3D printer.
3D? Yeah, I have a 3D printer.
Okay, so I don't have a 3D printer. Can you see if it will fit and you can print it on it?
I mean, I could try something like that. It looks like it's about 9.5 to 11.5 inches.
Yeah, it's about 12 inches.
So my printer does 8x8. So if I put it in diagonally, probably come pretty close.
But how can you determine that? Can I send you a file or?
Well, yeah. I mean, so obviously I would need a solid model and STL. But
okay.
if I just had a DWG of something that you're going to turn, I would take the DWG into SolidWorks, and then I can just take that profile and revolve it out into a solid. Be like super fast.
So I can email you the file, right? But emails are the old school, right? I don't want to deal with the email. I don't want to zip that file. It's maybe a big file, maybe a small file. But, we have now DraftSight in most of our application in 3D experience. So what I did is I actually went and created a task for Brad, okay? And there is no email involved, and he'll get a notification. So for Brad, I said, okay, I want to 3D print this. So I'm going to say, Brad, can you see if it will fit into your 3D printer? Okay, he'll get the notification, but what about the file? How do I get the file to do it? Well, from my computer or from 3D Experience Collaborative Desk or whatever that may be, I'm going to say, okay, how about we're going to look for DWG drawing, okay? And This is called Hammer, okay? So I'm going to grab, oops, where is it? Hardwood floor. No. Well, let's say this is the...
So I don't think you saved it yet to the platform.
Oh, okay, let me do this.
But that's okay, because this is a really good spot to pause for a second, because what you're doing here is some pretty heavy stuff that if anybody in the chat has used DraftSight before, they probably haven't seen this piece of it. You're actually using 3D Experience DraftSight, right?
Yes, I am using 3D Experience, or basically DraftSight connected to the platform.
Okay? Yeah. So it's DraftSight that's running on your desktop, but it's actually connected to the 3D Experience platform for what, doing your file storage in the cloud, secure data management, collaboration, and all that.
Exactly. This is what I'm doing, and I'm going to save this to the cloud. There is another drawing that I love to use during the demonstrations, and while it's saving it to the cloud, it's literally going into collaborative space that I shared with Brad. But besides that, I'm going to send, you can attach other people and then attach that drawing to the people that you want to share with. So here is this drawing. It's going to reappear again. And now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to more applications. And this is where collaborative tasks comes in. And I'll open up, and I can set up things to do for Brad or anybody else. Can you please help me out with this, right? So here's the print. Let's say 3D printing. I'm not going to type it again.
Yeah. And by the way, Andrew, our producer, just chimed in, and he said that the diagonal on my printer is 11.3 inches. So I think we'll just make it.
Yeah. So that might be just, and here's the hammer time. Okay, and I'm going to select this one, and it's going to get attached.
So this does all the revision control and everything too, right?
Yes, it does all the revision control. You can do the, you can even preview it in 3D Play. You can assign new revisions and so on. And so basically, I just set up a task for Brad to go ahead and use this drawing, and he can go and see if he can print it on his printer.
And so what happens on my end then is I get a notification when I'm connected to the 3D Experience platform, even though I'm not even, I don't even have DraftSight, 3D Experience DraftSight installed, but I'm on the 3D Experience platform for my SolidWorks and some of my other 3D Experience roles. So I'll get the notification from you, and I can pull the file down right from the platform. So no email, no file transfers, and so on.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So one more thing I want to show you, that, in here, here is a title block, and there are references. So you can actually set up as references. Here is the title block, here is the notes, and here is the logo. So you can set it up all and part of your template when you start it up for whatever satisfy your company standards, and just go in it. It's very simple software to use. It's very light footprint on installations. It's 1 gigabyte, and it doesn't require very complex or expensive hardware, and it just works. So if you use DWG, DXF, easy. There is I can export all the way to R12 DWX, which is really like almost 30 years back. And I've heard some anecdotals from our users that do use DraftSight, actually, that they can have a corrupted file that came from other software, and DraftSight does a very good job to untangle it. Actually, you did that. Remember, about a month ago, you couldn't open it. You said, "Yeah, can you open this in DraftSight and give it back to me and save it?" And I did, and it worked. So, good software, easy to use for people like me who grew up in 2D. Easy. And it does work with SolidWorks too. You can go back and forth, you can share files, and you can use 3D platform if you want to collaborate with people, store, revision, control maturities, assign tasks, check on stuff. It's awesome. And it's simple.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. We got a few questions in the chat, and I want to talk to you a little bit more about the 3D Experience platform integration here. But Tamborora, I'm sorry if I didn't get the name right, but there's a question here about CAD Astral units. CAD Astral, that's not a term I'm familiar with. Are you familiar with that term, Jan? Can CAD Astral units be used in DraftSight?
I'm not sure what that means also. I know I can use millimeters, I can use inches, I can use whatever, and I can switch back and forth.
What's the comment?
I don't know maybe it's the minute number of units. I know the precision is very high in here too.
Yeah, maybe we can crowdsource that to the chat. I'm sure somebody's got a fast finger on Google.
But while we're waiting, let me show you what I meant by why did I want it to print one-to-one, and why did I want it to put the dimensions inside the handle itself. Okay, so let me quickly do this, and you'll understand why I was doing this. So here's, let's say, a wood turning table, okay, with the wood blank that I want to make a hammer out of it, right? And here is the tool rest, what they call. And if I go down, here's the tool rest, and I want handle with one-to-one. So this one-to-one does not look, it's hard to see, right? So I printed out the other one, and actually I did two different patterns, crisscross. I think I went a little bit too ambitious on that. Even a single crisscross will make it much less slippery in my hand. And then you can tape it, and then you have to do very little measurement. You just use your wood cutting tool, rest on top of it, and just follow along and cut this piece very quickly.
Yeah, there you go. That makes a ton of sense. And that's why that one-to-one scale printing is so important. I mean, whether you're in a 2D tool or a 3D tool. Now, so this is a turn part, but what if it's just a prismatic, plate extrusion or something like that? You could.
No problem.
Sure, you can take the pattern to cut it out with a jigsaw, or maybe go to something more elaborate like a water jet, laser jet.
Yeah, laser jet. I know that we've talked with our friends from Elmax, and they can do pretty much anything you want, even in 3D parts. But yeah, it's very simple, and you can create those patterns or arrays inside DraftSight, any complexity you want. Save it as a block and repeat them, or whatever you want to do. It's very simple to do, and you can print it one-to-one. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, I like, you know what? I like the word pattern a lot better, because when you say array, sometimes it sounds like erase.
Yeah, I personally like patterns myself too, but this is what the other software used to call. So in our software, you can type patterns. Let's see. You can type patterns and you get patterns, or you can type array if you knew the command from the other software, and guess what you're going to get? You're going to still get patterns, but
array pattern.
Yep. Yeah. And I kind of like this. In the other software, you have to do, if you want to do circular linear paths, there's a separate tab, and you have to go and change to a different. Here you can just go through a different tab and go to linear pattern or path or circular, where in the other software you have to actually pick another type of pattern, and there is a different dialog to set it up. Here we can do it all at once.
Yeah, it's kind of like a super feature.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is cool, and just a quick shout out. I see Toby's in the chat here. Patterns in 3D. If there's anybody in the chat that's curious about doing 3D patterns, I want to remind you of a really cool live design session that Toby Schnars did, going into all the patterns in SolidWorks. But that's kind of cool to see kind of a similar DNA here in DraftSight. Now, I did a little bit of research on this. It's not a tool that I use all that regularly, but I'm kind of excited to try it out, especially knowing it's connected to the 3D Experience platform. I found out, Jan, there's a Mac version, and I like my Mac. It's sitting right over here. I use it for some of our cloud design
Hmm.
roles, but so there's a Mac version of DraftSight. That's pretty wild.
Yep, and compare it. I'm not a sales guy. I'm not in it, but from what I heard, it is very economical. And the other company went to the named account licenses, so the prices are basically going up. Here we have very flexible the way we do licenses. We can do term licenses, perpetual licenses. We
Hmm.
can do floating licenses still, and it is very affordable.
Yeah, well, the floating license, I've when I was out in the field doing a lot of SolidWorks demos in the days where people were converting from 2D to 3D. I remember there being a lot of talk about license compliance. There was a lot of 2D CAD seats that weren't legitimate, and turns out, for production companies, that's pretty bad, because they can come back and be
Hmm.
kind of punitive from a legal standpoint. So license compliance is a pretty big deal with when you have hundreds of these seats. So I guess the floating option that you can do with DraftSight is probably pretty attractive for some of those clients.
Yes, it is. And from what we're hearing, they're all very much interested in being in compliance.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me more about the connected option here. How you're connected to the 3D Experience platform, and it's just like this side panel that I'm seeing here.
Hmm.
That and this gives you access then to your storage, your cloud storage, your data management.
Yep. It gives me all of these capabilities, and DraftSight can be fully used with our uh, 3D drive, storage,
Hmm.
collaborative space. You can set up a collaborative space for a project that you might want to use. You'd be surprised how many companies still use DWG format for very big, complex things, and it's much easier. And did I open the right version or not? Is somebody else doing it? Like in here, I can lock it, which this one is locked, so everybody can open it, but only in read mode. And until I release it back, nobody can open and modify it. And I can set up maturities, release time, and so on. And I can roll back the revisions, go look at the history of it. So 3D Experience platform is very useful, even for small shops. If you have 3 or 4 people, if they store it locally, is that has been modified or not? So if you go to like storage, like 3D platform, everybody pulls from a common location, and and if it's been logged, oh, somebody else working it, so I can only see it in read only mode, but I can't save it. So it makes it much more user friendlier for the file, so there is no confusion and no accidentally, I changed the wrong revision. There was somebody else working on it. So it's very, very useful.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me, because even if the language that you converse in, if your engineering language is DWG, is primarily 2D, well that still means that you have the same problems that a lot of folks who do 3D work. You have problems with versioning, you have problems with common storage, releasing products. That's not unique to 3D. So it's kind of cool that there's this solution that gives people who converse in 2D a way to share, collaborate, and manage data. And it just so happens that it also works great with your 3D data too.
So if I go and say I want to see this goes into our 3D play. So even if you don't have DraftSight installed, you want to see what it looks like. If I share the drawing with you, you can go and kind of look at it. You can uh, zoom in, you can pan around. Let's see.
Yeah, in fact, for me, like when I get your notification, that'll just come up in my web browser.
Right, it will come up in your web browser right in that window. You can see it. You can even say, "Hey, Jan, let's see," and I'm going to draw this and say, we want this 1.1 5.
Totally
Okay.
mark it up.
Yep. So
Yeah.
you can mark it up. So it's easier. You don't have to find out if you have a viewer for DWG or DXF. We can just throw it in and no problems.
Right. No software to install with that. Then that just runs in the browser, which is pretty cool. So just to be clear, DraftSight is a native application, right? You install that on your PC or your Mac.
Mm-hmm.
But the 3D Experience plugin, that's all running on the cloud then?
Yes.
Okay.
And with the new revision that we just released, FD06, there's a couple new things which are really cool. Well, let's say you do work on the cloud and all of a sudden you're going to go into camping, but you want to finish the project, right? So you would go and say, I want to export, once you save it, you basically can export to your local drive, okay, the files, and then and then after you're done, you can upload them back into the cloud. Yeah,
makes sense.
Okay, so.
Well, this is cool. So Jan, I guess we've kind of come to the close of solving the problem here. You set out to design a new handle, so you can quit having to buy hammers all the time. But also, I hope you get your purchase order approved so you can go get that lathe.
Absolutely.
That'll be a lot of fun, not just for hammers, for all kinds of tools or for all kinds of little home projects. That'll be fun. So you use DraftSight connected to the 3D Experience platform to accomplish that, and pretty cool because this is not a tool that I've really gone into a lot of depth, but kind of opened my eyes to some different applications for it. Pretty slick. And I understand there's a free trial that you can do a 30-day trial on DraftSight.com.
Yes, you can do 30-day trial, and then you can explore it further. I know we have some students versions too for universities and colleges. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible to people to get and use it. And like I said, if you use that other software, you pretty much know 90% of it anyway. You basically type in the command that you used, and it will recognize it. You don't like this GUI, you switch it to Classic, okay? I don't care. It's up to you. I like
command
it this
line.
way.
There's some people that really like their command line.
And that's fine, too. I mean, I sometimes, like I said, I never even looked at where the insert the command is. It's probably in here. Let's see where it would be. Oh, here's insert block. Okay, fine. Sure. This is the first time I actually look for it because I can just type insert and it knows that I'm going to insert the block, right? I just type insert and there it is.
That's awesome. So you just start typing.
If you know the commands. Yeah. And believe me, this command been around for as long as I've used. The insert, block, p-line, p-edit, layers. I mean, and there's a whole bunch of other commands that you can do.
Format C:. Oh, that's different.
Format C:, C drive /
Don't try that at home, kids.
No, don't try that. No. But this one that I really like is being able to set it up so all of your layers are all defaults, so it throws it automatically. Like, notice when I was doing the drawing, when I drew this, my active layer was handle. But when I did dimensions, because I changed it, it automatically put it in dimensional layer for me.
Sure.
So I didn't have to mentally, I have to change the layers all the time.
Yeah, that's cool. It makes me wonder when you start typing like that to right in the screen. You can do that in SolidWorks now with the command search. I wonder which came first or which was inspired by what. Makes me wonder. But really cool, Jan. So what else do you have to show us? Did we solve the problem here today?
I think we did, and that's pretty much what I was going to show. I don't want to overwhelm everybody. If there's any other questions, we try to answer them. If not, we'll try to come back and answer them later. There's a couple questions.
Yeah, I think and our moderator Olga on the behind the scenes has been moderating. She even answered a question in Russian. That's pretty crazy. It looks like the chat has been doing a good job of self-moderating and getting questions answered. So things are looking pretty good from that end.
Okay, what I don't see. big shout out, before you do, big shout out, спасибо, Ольга, и спасибо всем, кто спрашивал на русском языке. Отлично, спасибо за помощь. Okay,
exactly.
Back to you.
Yes, yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to Andrew, our producer, is always doing a great job for us. Let's see, a couple things. Well, for one, I'm disappointed that no one answered my trivia question. Now, everybody, you will be pleased to know, Jan, everybody behaved and there was no MC Hammer jokes, but no one answered the trivia question about what famous bass line was lifted in order to make the song, the Hammer Time song.
Okay, so tell
I guess
us.
I got to spill the beans on that. It was Rick James' famous song called Super Freak.
Oh,
so
interesting.
Today I learned Super Freak by Rick James was the bass line in Can't Touch This.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. All right, everybody. Well, hey, it's been a whole lot of fun, Jan. Always, it's always really fun being with you and hearing your stories and then seeing you solve this cool problem using DraftSight. I learned a lot. For everybody that is regularly tuning into Live Design, June 17th is our next Live Design episode, and that's going to feature industry process consultant John Martirano III, who is a licensed pilot in his free time, and he's going to do an episode called Designs That Fly. That should be a whole lot of fun. And now, not a live design episode, but the next SolidWorks Live is happening next week at this time, June 10th. And that's actually going to be a cool one because it's going to feature a lot of our Swuggen leaders. So a really interesting format for that. That's going to be great. So tune in on the 10th and the 17th, and we'll have a great time in both of those episodes. So, Jan, hey, thanks for showing us that today. I'm Brad, your host, signing off, and thanks for joining us for SolidWorks Live Design.
Bye.